Today, we are ranking furry visual novel characters based on how they would do in Survivor. This is actually a recommendation from a commenter, so thank you very much for that. I'm always open to suggestions on what people want to see. And it's actually the perfect time to be talking about Survivor with Survivor 47 just starting airing. So yeah, let's get into this. And for those who don't know, Survivor, it's a game show where a group of like 18 to 20 people are stranded in the wilderness in different teams, and they have to work together to build a shelter and survive in the wilderness while also competing in mentally and physically demanding challenges. And then the teams that lose have to vote someone out until ultimately there is only a few people left who are then voted on to see who wins. It's a very fun game. If you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend checking it out. So our tiers are at the top, final three. Now, I'll try to choose a sole survivor, but I might not be able to. So I'm at least going to choose who makes it to the final three. Then below that, we have solid competitor. This is someone who they probably make it to the merge, might even make it to the jury, but they're not making it all the way. It's for those people who they have what it takes to compete, definitely, but I'm just not going to put them up there at the top. Then we have dramatically blindsided. Now, one of the best things about Survivor is when they're voting people out, there's always blind sides where people don't tell the person who they're voting for, or there's stuff going on behind the scenes, and then it's all revealed during the vote, and there's lots of shock and awe. Then we have hated but somehow stays in, because there's always someone in every season who is like the villain and nobody likes them, and it's like, this person's not going to win the game. Because you have to, the thing about Survivor is, out of the final three, the people who are voting as to who wins are the people who've like the last 10 people or so who were voted out. So you have to be able to vote people out and still maintain a relationship with them and still get them to be able to vote for you to win. So if you're just the most awful person that everyone hates, you're probably not going to win. But there's always that one or two people who are like, just everyone hates them, but somehow they always stay in. They always have some plan to keep them in, or they use a hidden immunity idol. And it makes for great TV, but you're just like, I want them gone. So yeah. Then we has a freak accident and is evacuated, because is it a season of Survivor if they don't have to med evacuate someone because like they got heat stroke? I don't know. I don't think it is. Then we have voted off early, because some of these people, let's be real, they're not making it. They're not making it. All right. So yeah, 39 days, 20 people, 1 survivor. All right. Let's see who it's going to be. Starting off with Artemy. And I hate to do it, but I'm going to say she gets dramatically blindsided. The thing about Artemy is I can see her being really strong in challenges. She's like, I mean, she has magic, but even if we discount that, she's not like a wimp. She definitely will pull her weight around camp. She'll probably get mad at other people who aren't pulling their weight around camp, because she, believes everyone should contribute and stuff. Like that's how I see her being. But she is just very naive, very gullible. Like, she is going to, if someone says, hey, I have your back 100%, I'm not going to vote for you, she's going to take them at their word. So yeah, I definitely see her as someone they're going to keep around. People are going to keep around knowing that they can just vote her off whenever. And then there's going to be some vote where she's like, oh, everything's fine. And then she gets voted off because she didn't realize that people are playing the game behind her back. So yeah, she's going to be dramatically blindsided. Then we have Cole, and has a freak accident and is evacuated. Like, if anyone is going to, it's going to be Cole. He's going to like trip getting off the boat and go into a coma or something, like he is not surviving. And even if he did like not have some horrible accident at the beginning, like, I'm sorry, he's not going to enjoy the wilderness. Like, no, I just don't see him doing that well, which is a shame, because I could totally see him trying to pass like Malice off as a hidden immunity idol, or like trying to use him to spy on people. I think he would be a great player of Survivor, because he is already very deceptive and going behind people's backs. But I don't think he's ever going to get the chance, because he is very fragile. And yeah, nope, he's not going to make it. Then we have Hamish, and Am I biased? Yes, but I think I'm going to put him in the final 3 just because he has the survival skills. Like, he's a ranger. That's his class in Temptation's Ballad. And he has survivor skills. Like, he would definitely be able to catch animals to eat. Like, he's going to be able to pull his weight around camp. And then he's definitely also going to be able to succeed in challenges. Like, he's physically fit. He's a fighter. Like his job, he goes out and fights and stuff. He's a mercenary. But he also, I just feel like, has a good head on his shoulders. Like, he's level-headed. He's not going to let emotions really get in his way unless it's emotions about his family and stuff. But I think he's going to be able to make moves to be able to stay in the game. I think he's going to be able to use tricks. I just see him as someone who would be able to do what needs to be done to get to the final 3. Would he win? I don't know, because I don't think he's the kind of person who would have like a super strong personality. Like, I don't necessarily know that he would stand out to people in that way, but I think he could make it to the final 3. Then we have Sid, and I'm gonna put him in solid competitor because, yeah, I don't think that he necessarily can play the strategy game, but he's nowhere near as like naive as Artemy, and so I think for that, like, he's strong, he's physically strong. He'll be able to do well in challenges, especially if he makes it to the merge. He's definitely going to be winning some of those individual immunity challenges. So I just see him being like a pretty good competitor, but I just don't think he has the gameplay mindset to make the moves needed to get to the end. I think he's probably just going to coast for a while and then eventually get voted out. Then we have Marrow, and I'm also going to put him in solid competitor because similar reasons. He's a lot more like, has a stronger personality, of course. I also think people are going to overlook him a little bit because he's obviously like older. He has like his fake eye, so I think people are going to see him as maybe less of a threat, unfairly, of course, because like he is a serious threat. But I think that he might be a little I think people might underestimate him a little. But also I think that his personality will definitely rub people the wrong way. Not to like villain status, but he's definitely going to have people who are like his friends who get along with him. And then there's going to be people who can't stand him. And I think for that reason, he's probably not going to make it to the end. But I think he will put on a good show. Then we have Cooper. I'm going to put him in hated, but somehow stays in. I just don't think I think he's a survivor. He has the determination to stay in. I don't think he's very likable. Like, obviously he's able to open up to certain people, but I just don't see him having the social skills or the tact to be super likable in the game. But pair that with his like determination to do whatever he needs to survive. I think he's gonna somehow stay in. And for similar reasons, I'm also putting Brian there. Brian is like a force of nature. Like, he somehow is still alive. Somehow, no matter what happens, he's still in it in like the Echo series. So I think a similar thing is going to happen in Survivor. If he was in Survivor, like, obviously he's hated. Like, I don't think anyone likes him. Has no redeeming qualities, but he just somehow sticks around. I think he's probably more so than Cooper, like the definition of this tier. So yeah, I think that he is going to be one of those classic villains that everyone hates. Then we have Jenna. I think she is also a solid competitor. There's always some, like, it's always interesting looking at who makes it far in Survivor, because you think, starting out, oh, it's just going to be whoever is physically strongest, because a lot of it is to do with physical challenges. Or, you know, surviving the wilderness, if you're already super fit and stuff like that, like, you might have a better chance at that. But it's always interesting that there's always different people who make it really far, and usually like there'll be some woman who people like overlook and don't think, oh, she's not physically strong, she can't compete, but then she ends up playing a really good game, making the right strategic moves and making it really far, which just shows like Survivor is just as much like a social game as it is a physical game. And I think Jenna would fit that archetype really well, as someone who initially people are not, like, it's not on her radar, but I do think that she would play a really good game. Again, I don't think she's going to make it to the final 3. I don't know that she's playing that good a game, but I do think that she is able to pick up on like social cues. I just think that she would make it pretty far. She fills that archetype for sure. And then we have Carl. He's also having a freak accident and getting evacuated. He's like a gamer. Like, I'm sorry, he's not surviving in the wilderness. If he doesn't get like bit by some animal or get some infection or whatever, like, he's gonna choose to leave the game, because no, he's not gonna enjoy the wilderness at all. He's probably like, I could see him being like a Survivor super fan, like watching it and being obsessed with it, but I could not see him actually succeeding out in the wilderness, at least as he's presented in the Echo game. Like, who knows, maybe 10-20 years after that if he wanted to. But he also has really bad anxiety. Like, it's just not going to go well for him no matter what. He is not going to do well. Then we have Chase, and I'm going to put him in solid competitor. And this may seem a little strange, but a lot of Survivor seasons are around the water and have a lot of water-based challenges. Chase would dominate those. Oh my gosh, he would do so well. So I think, like, assuming that this is like a furry version of Survivor, people will be like, oh, we have this otter who's really good in the water, let's keep him around for water-based challenges. But they're probably gonna, for that reason, try to get him out before the merge, or right around the merge, so that he doesn't dominate in like individual immunity challenges. Although those are usually not water-based, as far as I remember. But I do think he's the kind of person they want to keep around for the water challenges. But also, like, he's willing to do some pretty bad things if he needs to survive. Like, he can always pull a Lake Emma if he wants to, you know? Like, I think he has the ability to make some moves in the game. But I don't see him going all the way. Then we have Flynn, and he is also hated, but somehow stays in. Sorry to the Flynn lovers out there. Like, I think Flynn is a good character. He would be incredibly annoying to live with 24/7 for 39 days. I think we can all admit that. He does not have the kind of personality that he does not have a nice personality. Let's just put it that way. I think he's going to be more the kind of villain that people love to hate. Like, oh my gosh, like, he is saying it like it is. People are going to he's going to have some scene where he blows up at someone. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, he was so right. But that still means he's going to be like unlikable. Unlike Brian, who I think everyone, like viewers, contestants, everyone's just going to be like, this guy sucks. I think Flynn's going to be the kind of person where it's like, he makes good TV. People want him in the game. But he's still just unlikable. People are going to be like, okay, we'll keep him in. And he'll probably make some friends. Like, obviously, he can make friends. But I just don't see him being likable enough to stay around. Because, like, again, Survivor has that social aspect, which I really like about it. Then we have Leo. And I think I'm going to put him in Dramatically Blindsided. And that might seem a bit strange at first. But the way I see it, Leo and Chase are going to have the most toxic showmance in the game. Like, I can just see it, you know? They're going to be, like, in love, and it's going to be really toxic. They're going to constantly be arguing, but, like, it would make great TV. And I think because of that, one of them is going to get targeted. That usually when you have a power couple like that, the only way to break it up is with a blindside. They have to blindside one of the members of the couple. And that's the whole point. Like, together, if you have two people who are always going to vote for each other, it's going to be, or vote with each other. That's really strong. And especially as the numbers get less and less, like, you want that out. So I think that's what's going to happen. I already put Chase in solid competitor. So I think if they want to, like, target Chase, let's say, if they think, oh, he's a super strong competitor, maybe they'll go for Leo and say, oh, let's get him out and then we get Chase out. Also because I think Leo wouldn't be as strong in challenges. So yeah, so that's just how I see it going. I think Leo would be great TV to watch, though. But I do think he's going to get blindsided because he's in a showmance with Chase. That's just how I see it. Then we have TJ. He's going to get voted off early. Like, it's going to be, people are going to feel bad for him. I don't think he's going to have a freak accident, but, like, people are just going to be like, why are you here? You're not contributing anything. You're not going to succeed in challenges, and they're just going to vote him off. There's sometimes someone like that on the seasons where it's just like, what are you doing here? Like, maybe they're not the very first person voted off. Maybe they keep them around a little bit, just have a shield, but they're not going to make it that far. Yeah, I would feel bad for him watching him on Survivor. I would feel like, oh, ooh, Yeah, so I think he's gonna get voted off early. Then we have Griff. I think I'm going to put him in solid competitor, and this is because I don't know that he would actually be good at Survivor, but he just reminds me of. There's just so many seasons where people come in like dressed up in like full suit, not suit necessarily, but like dress clothes, and then I'm like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, you're on Survivor, why are you not wearing like appropriate clothes? And like they're dressed up in a full button-up shirt. But for some reason, I'm like thinking of a few specific people and I can't remember their names, but like they actually go pretty far. Like I'm like, initially I'm like, wow, like that doesn't make any sense. Or like one season there was a guy who was like a sommelier, like a wine specialist, and it's like, oh, I'm super fancy, blah blah blah, and then ends up going really far. So I think he's gonna be someone like that. People are gonna write him off initially, like, oh, you're just like care about like fancy stuff, like whatever, like you're not cut out for this. But I think he would actually be able to go pretty far. Obviously, with Dante not being like that far in development, I'm perfectly fine to be like, next update comes out and they're like, oh yeah, Griff hates Survivor. But I still feel, based on the limited knowledge we know of him, I'm going to put him there. Ranto, though, I'm going to say he makes it to the final three. I might be biased. I very much am biased. But, like, again, he works on a boat, presumably knows how to swim, so he has water challenges covered. Also, he has to be strong to do like manual labor in a boat for 6 years or whatever. He's a likable guy. Like he has a lot of traits that match up with a Survivor winner. And again, he reminds me of specific people who go in and are maybe like, just seem like nice golden retriever dudes. And you're like, oh, they're not going to make it far. And then they like win, you know, like there are people like that in Survivor who people have written off for being like too nice, too whatever. And then they end up winning. Or oh, they're not really playing a game, they're just voting with their heart, and then they end up winning. So I think that's the kind of archetype Ranzo could fill. I don't know that like modern, like current Survivor, like with the current way the game is played, that those kind of people would win, but like historically, those kind of people can win. So I'm putting Ranzo up there because I do think that he has what it takes to make it decently far, and in my fictional world where there's a furry survivor, he will make it to the final three. So yeah. Then we have Kato. I'm gonna say solid competitor. I'm realizing most of the people I'm putting are in solid competitor, but you know, he just reminds me of like certain people in Survivor. Like there's always that older guy who, or not always, but oftentimes there's an older guy who people are gonna underestimate, but who is actually gonna be like really physically strong. And is actually going to succeed really well. I think that's what Kato is going to be. And similar to like Mero, I think people are going to underestimate him because of his like disability. But I think he's going to compensate for that and do well enough. Obviously, we know he's like he has the ability to make like strong strategic political moves, as we've seen in Adastra. And he's also very physically strong. Like obviously he's trained people to fight. So yeah, I see him being pretty solid. I don't know that he's going to make it to the final three. Yeah, I don't think he's going to make it all that way. But I do see him being pretty strong. Then we have Alexios. I'm going to say he's dramatically blindsided. And the thing is, he's going to be the person dramatically blindsiding others. But then when people figure out that he's the one like pulling the strings, doing all this stuff, they're going to want to get him out and people are going to turn on him. And he's going to be the one blindsided. Because usually it's like if they're someone who's like playing a really strategic game and being deceptive, going behind people's backs, when that's found out, they end up getting blindsided. It's like what comes around goes around. If you're the one orchestrating all these blindsides to get other people out, then someone's going to try to blindside you and get you out. So I think that's what's going to happen with Alexios. People are going to catch on to the fact that he is pulling the strings and blindsiding people and doing all these sneaky stuff, and then they're going to vote him out. But I do think up until that point, he's going to be playing a really good game. Then we have Nefero, another solid competitor. I realize, again, I'm putting a ton of people up there. But yeah, I just think he would be a solid competitor. I think some of these, like, honestly, Griff probably would be voted out early. So I could probably move him down there. But I'm just going to keep him up there because I'm biased. Yeah, so Nefero, again, I think he's willing to do political stuff. He's not as physically strong as some of the other characters in Adastra, but He's still stronger than the average furry, I would say. Even if you don't take that into consideration, I still think he's going to be a very strategic player, and he's probably going to get on the bad side of a lot of people, but I still think he's going to make it pretty far, but don't see him making it to the final 3. Amicus, I'm going to say he makes it to the final 3. I think he, again, like Amicus starting off in Adastra in the story, not that interested in politics. He thinks he's just a shoo-in for the Emperor. He's sort of going through the motions, but by the end of the story, he's much more involved, much more politically minded. So translating that over to the game, I think he would probably go through a similar arc, starting off not really playing the game, just sort of, oh, I'm having a good time, like, oh, isn't this fun? Oh, we're winning. He's probably going to be pretty well liked. He's a likable guy. Like, I think that's kind of where he's going to start off, and then something's going to happen to make him lock in, and then he's going to really start playing a good strategic game. I mean, he's also strong, so again, he's going to do well in challenges. As long as people don't vote him out, I think he's going to go really far. So, like, I don't have Marco on the tier list, but assuming they were both in the same season or whatever, let's say Marco gets voted out, makes Amicus realize, like, oh, wow, I really have to take things more seriously, locks in, able to really start thinking strategy-wise, and makes it to the final 3. That's what I think would happen, and for that reason, I think he might, out of these 3, I think he might be the winner, just because the thing they look for in the final 3, you have to make your case, like why you should be Survivor. How did you outwit, outlast, outplay everyone else? And I think having a narrative arc where you're like, oh, well, I came in, I didn't really know what I was doing, but then I learned how to play this game and I dominated. I think that that's going to be something that really resonates with people, and if he's able to communicate that well, I think people are going to be like, oh, wow, you're right, you really did come in. Whereas I think someone like Hamish is probably going to be involved in a lot of votes and stuff, but isn't going to be playing the game as openly, and I think a lot of people are not going to think that he really was that involved, going to think that he just sort of coasted, and Ranzo, I think, is going to be somewhere in the middle. Like, he's not going to be playing as much a game, but he's not going to be as in the background as Hamish. But I think out of the 3, I think Amicus probably would win. That's just, yeah, I could see him winning, definitely. And I guess last we have Cassius. He is also having a freak accident and evacuated for obvious reasons. Like, has not physically strong and has that bone issue, is it? Yeah. He's the kind of person, if he gets hurt, he's going to need to be evacuated, and it's Survivor. You're going to get hurt at some point. Like, not saying it happens right away, but if he, like, sprains his ankle in a challenge, or if he gets cut or has an infection, like, okay, yeah, at that point, he's going to need to leave. Yeah, so that's my tier list. I realize I only put TJ in voted off early. I really do think if I had to, I would move Griff down there as well. I think I'm maybe a little too biased towards him. I like him, but I don't know that he actually would do that well, like, thinking about it. But I want him. It's the kind of thing where I really need to see more of his character. Obviously, again, Dante is very early in development. So, and he is very much a mystery in that visual novel so far. So I'd have to learn more about him. But I think maybe I should move him to voted off early. But everyone else, I feel pretty confident. Like, obviously, everyone in the accident, like, yeah, these people are not, they're not cut out for it. They're going to get sent home. Cooper, Brian, and Flynn, like, they can be very unlikable. But they also are not just a pushover. They're going to get voted out. But they're going to really make it a challenge to get them out. Dramatically blindsided, I think all of these, I like that they're all here for different reasons. Like, Artemi, obviously naive. She's not going to realize she's the person they're voting for. Alexios, because he's playing too many games. And Leo, because honestly, he's going to have the worst showmance ever with Chase. And I love that. Yep, and everyone here, I think, solid competitor. Again, for different reasons. Victors, yeah. I feel pretty good about this tier list. Yeah, so thank you for tuning in. If anyone has any suggestions for other tier lists I can make, or other videos you'd like to see on the channel, please let me know. But until then, have a good day.